Some heartbreaks arrive with shouting, slammed doors, and shattered promises. Others come quietly, hidden inside a single signature written with trembling hands. Ethan believed the worst moment of his life was placing his name on the divorce papers that officially ended 12 years of marriage. He walked out of the courthouse convinced that love had finally died, that two people who once dreamed of growing old together had become strangers separated by silence. What he did not know was that before the sun set that evening, he would hear the truth she had carried alone for years, and those few painful minutes would completely destroy everything he believed about their marriage. Before we continue, if you believe kindness still matters, that forgiveness is stronger than pride, and that everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave a comment, and subscribe to Real Feel Story Hub. Your support allows us to keep bringing emotional stories that remind us what it truly means to be human. Ethan had spent months convincing himself that his wife, Olivia, had simply stopped loving him. Their home had become painfully quiet. The laughter that once filled every room had disappeared, replaced by short conversations, distant smiles, and nights where they slept only a few feet apart while feeling miles away. Friends assumed they had simply grown apart. Family members quietly accepted that some marriages were never meant to last forever. Ethan accepted the same explanation because it was easier than asking questions whose answers he feared. Olivia never fought during the divorce. She never argued about money. She never demanded the house or tried to punish him. She simply signed every document with tired eyes and thanked everyone involved with surprising politeness. Ethan interpreted her calmness as proof that she no longer cared. Every signature felt like another confirmation that he had become nothing more than a chapter she wanted to close. After leaving the courthouse, Ethan realized he had forgotten a folder containing several financial papers. He returned to the building only minutes later. The hallway was almost empty, and as he approached the waiting area, he heard Olivia speaking softly inside a nearby counseling room where she had stepped in after the hearing. The door had not closed completely. He had no intention of listening, but one sentence froze him where he stood. She admitted that signing those papers felt like burying the only person she had ever truly loved. Ethan could not move. His heartbeat pounded so loudly that he barely heard the rest. Olivia explained through tears that she had never stopped loving her husband. She said she had watched him sacrifice everything for work, carrying the pressure of supporting both families, hiding his exhaustion behind forced smiles. She confessed that during the previous 2 years she had been diagnosed with a serious heart condition that required expensive treatment. The doctors had warned her that surgery carried significant risks and that future complications were impossible to predict. She believed Ethan would never choose his own happiness if he knew the truth. He would spend every dollar trying to save her, work himself into complete exhaustion, and blame himself if anything happened. Instead of allowing that future, she slowly pushed him away. She became emotionally distant on purpose. She accepted every misunderstanding because she thought it would hurt him less to believe she had fallen out of love than to watch her slowly disappear while he sacrificed everything trying to stop the inevitable. Every word felt like another crack breaking Ethan apart from the inside. The woman he believed had abandoned him had actually been protecting him in the most heartbreaking way imaginable. Memories suddenly returned with painful clarity. The cancelled vacations she insisted they could not afford. The nights she quietly cried in the bathroom after medical appointments she claimed were routine checkups. The birthday gifts she refused because she wanted him to save money. The mornings she looked pale and exhausted but smiled anyway. Every moment that once seemed confusing suddenly made perfect sense. For the first time since their relationship began falling apart, Ethan saw not rejection but unimaginable sacrifice. He sat alone in his car for nearly an hour unable to start the engine. Tears streamed down his face as regret swallowed him whole. He replayed every argument where he accused her of giving up, every cold silence, every opportunity he had to ask deeper questions but chose anger instead because it felt easier than vulnerability. That night he returned to the empty house they once shared. Every object reminded him of the life they had built together. The coffee mugs they bought during their honeymoon. The old blanket they wrapped themselves in while watching movies during rainy weekends. The small scratch on the kitchen table from the day they assembled furniture together and laughed until midnight. None of those memories had disappeared. They had simply been buried beneath fear, exhaustion, and assumptions. Ethan barely slept. At sunrise he made a decision that terrified him more than signing the divorce papers ever had. He would not ask Olivia to erase the past. He would simply tell her that she never had to carry the burden alone again. He found her sitting quietly in a small park where they had shared countless evenings years earlier. Autumn leaves drifted across the walking path while children laughed in the distance. Life continued around them, unaware that two broken hearts were standing at the edge of their greatest turning point. Olivia looked surprised to see him. She expected anger. She expected accusations. Instead she saw tears. Without blaming her, Ethan admitted that he had heard the truth by accident. He apologized for every assumption he had made and confessed that the divorce papers had ended their marriage only on paper because his heart had never stopped choosing her. For several long moments, neither of them moved. Years of pain, fear, misunderstanding, and silent sacrifice hung between them like a heavy storm cloud finally ready to break. Olivia finally admitted how terrified she had been. She confessed that every cold word she spoke had shattered her own heart first. Every distant smile had been rehearsed in private. Every night she cried after Ethan fell asleep because she believed making him hate her would eventually help him heal faster. Instead, they had both suffered alone. Healing did not arrive in a dramatic cinematic instant. The divorce remained legally final. The emotional wounds remained painfully real. But for the first time in years, honesty entered the space where silence had lived. They began talking again. Not as husband and wife trying to save appearances. Not as strangers dividing possessions. Simply as two deeply wounded people finally telling the truth. Ethan attended every medical appointment that followed. Olivia reluctantly accepted that love was never meant to be carried by one person alone. They learned that protecting someone through silence often causes greater pain than sharing difficult truths together. Recovery was slow. Some days were hopeful. Others were frightening. Medical treatments demanded patience, courage, and countless hours inside hospital waiting rooms. Yet something had changed forever. They were facing life side by side instead of hiding from each other. Months later, after Olivia's successful treatment and long recovery, they returned to the same courthouse where they had once ended everything. This time they were not carrying divorce papers. They were filing the documents required to remarry. The courthouse looked exactly the same. They did not. The couple walking through those doors had learned that love is not measured by perfect days. It is measured by the willingness to remain honest even when the truth is terrifying. Many people watching them assumed they were newly engaged. Only Ethan and Olivia knew they were simply finding their way back home. If this story has touched your heart so far, please support this video by liking it, sharing it with someone who needs encouragement, subscribing to Real Feel Story Hub, and leaving a heartfelt comment. Your support helps these stories reach people who may need hope today more than ever. Special request: before this story ends, please comment below with one word, forgiveness, if you believe honest communication can save relationships before silence destroys them. Their second wedding was smaller than the first. There were fewer decorations, fewer guests, and none of the unrealistic promises that young couples often make. Instead, they made one simple commitment: to never again allow fear to speak louder than truth. Years later, when people asked them how they managed to rebuild a marriage after signing divorce papers, they never claimed it was easy. They simply smiled and explained that love rarely disappears overnight. More often, it gets buried beneath pride, fear, exhaustion, and unspoken pain. Sometimes the greatest miracle is not finding someone new. Sometimes it is finally understanding the person who never stopped loving you in the first place. Life gave Ethan and Olivia a painful ending before offering them a beautiful new beginning. Their story became proof that even when papers are signed, doors are closed, and hope seems impossible, compassion and honesty still have the power to rewrite the future. And perhaps that is the greatest reminder of all, that the strongest hearts are not the ones that never break, but the ones brave enough to love again after they do.